says sex is sacred and it is treated very reckless in our society. Man, I love that you made that comment, Elliot. And I say this all the time, and they think I'm crazy. And even in my relationships, and it's like because it's like a ritual, right? It's like this is it shouldn't be taken lightly. The conditions need to be right. The situation the situation needs to be right. I'm gonna pass if the conditions aren't proper. Like, and I don't really want to go into the details on all of that, but it needs to be certain boxes need to be checked.
What? Well, I want to at least say this because I don't want to go too far because I can. But a lot of it is really just like senseless, like going through the motions, like kind of like, oh, it's supposed to be like it should be really more discussion of like what the outcome would be. Like it shouldn't be such just a animalistic like, oh, like, oh, each one, of course, we're humans, we have urges, but it shouldn't be based around like mostly the urges. You know what I'm saying? Like all the things that could come, that could happen from it. Like there should be more thought put into it, and like I mean, the whole RVW thing that's recently came about, like that shouldn't have to be such a big conversation because more people are more responsible with that. But
He's, he
I
Elliot
digress.
Elliot says, I feel bad for the women because they are super masculine and it's disgusting. Bro, we trying to grow female followers, bro. You being harsh. But
But it's not. But it's. I don't think it's totally their fault. I mean, because I mean, we're both supposed to be responsible parties, and like I said, I mean, the more we find out in science that children are, like we say that like it's unnatural for the to be homosexual, lesbian, and this that, and the other. But at the same time, some of these things are happening because of like the food that we're eating that create certain things. Like women should eat
and
certain things when they're pregnant to enhance a female, and then like there's other foods that would they should eat that would mostly enhance the male. And because most people don't know that type of science or understand it, because like that's more so what the the immaculate conception is more about. It's not really just like this. Like it's really, because you can totally plan it based on the stars, what you're gonna have. Whether you want a scientist, whether you want a lawyer, you want like based on the type of person you want it to be. All these things can be planned, but most people don't really understand that science.
yeah. So and I think using the word masculine may be improper, but I agree with what you're saying, Elliot. But I also think that we need to think about how, like, as a man or as a woman, you have different um, levels of masculinity and femininity
Well,
in you. We
well,
both have it,
well,
So
well, my bad. Because I do want to add. Because I mean, I hear. Because I know what you're saying, and what. Because I mean, one of the things I also want people to realize too. Because I mean, yes, we both like we share different attributes, and based on your sex, you supposed to carry one or the other. But there's a lot of things that's happening in our world where women are like, I mean, the matriarchal sense for like women to rule is becoming more prevalent in our uh within the time period.
yeah,
So like,
because things are naturally, it's the pendulum, right? It swings one way, it swings the other way. It's inevitable that it's gonna swing back. And I
yeah.
think that, yeah, I think that's what's happening. But the toxicity, like they say, toxic masculinity, and that's what they're saying. So it comes from men and women or whatever. But I don't think that that's what it is. I think that it's more of like it's just ugly,
Well,
right? I don't
well,
know what
well,
the
you're
right
looking at
word.
traits. You're looking at traits, and so for some people, masculinity means different things.
Yeah, so
So,
that's why I say that word maybe now don't fit good enough. It's
well, but maybe it does, but at the same time, because of the way people see it or what their definition of it is, can taint the full understanding of what I think he's saying. But listen, I'm not trying to generalize. My apologies. No, no, I think for the most part, people understand this, but at the same time, I could get what you're saying because to some extent it is true. I also hear what Chaka is saying because that idea. If you're too frank about it, some people are gonna take it one way further than what you're probably really meaning, what you're trying to express in your thought, in your with what you said. So, but yeah, but no, the women are stronger. They're more demanding. They're more like it's things that we consider being a masculine trait, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're really and maybe it's something that they're gonna be taming. I really don't really know how to call it or what really should say about it, but I know the energy of our universe is leaning more back toward a where the matriarchies are gonna form stronger,
yeah,
bigger. You
because
know,
I don't think it ever really went away, and it's just that they put this veil up and make things appear to be something other than what it is. Because you know the mom runs the household, man, and
yeah.
that's it.
But if men are always doing things to satisfy or to like look, we trying to obtain things to show off and become the more attractive to women and this, that, and the other. I mean, doesn't that, aren't we still giving our power to them? Like
Because that's all we're doing, and we just get lost in it. We get lost in it. It's a lie. It's a lie that we tell to ourselves. And when I say we,
that we're in control, because I mean, in a lot of cases, I mean, like really women have a power that like without having to be in power, have the power.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, it's like the power of the wind. It's like that's why they say it's like the weather. Um,
very much defense of, because they're just used to going with a certain thing. It's just like life is about change, and when you're not prepared to change because things are either you know bad for you or whatever it is, that like not being prepared to make a change that will be better for you, even if it's not the best situation, something that can be better or at least a little bit different, that like don't be afraid of it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where it eats me up, because it's just like I think it's too much, like it's fear. It's like, you're fearing man over God. When you're trying to fit in with certain things and people instead of trying to be right with God. Like look, I'm gonna tell you, I'd rather go down by myself. Well, I say that by myself, but I'd rather go down with God than to follow a bunch of people who are, you know,
I'm
just
telling you. And then
cattle.
it's your own life anyway. So at the end of the day, you could be wrong, and if I could be wrong, and I'm gonna accept that, and I'm gonna accept the consequences as as the
Yeah. Well,
repercussions. I'm
if
gonna take
that's
it.
if that's the case, all right, yeah, I'm gonna have to roll with that, but I'm
and
just
and
not.
and I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with being wrong. I
Well,
think
I
that's
mean,
what
I'm
people are
not
scared
okay
of.
with it. I'm not okay with it to the extent that I'm gonna choose not to do what I think is right. Or when you see clear signs and you ignore them because you just scared to go up against a different something. I guess the physical enemy, because I'm gonna tell you, I mean, the spiritual. It's mostly a spiritual war, and if you're worrying about what somebody can do to your physical more than what can happen to your life, that soul that never dies, that part of you that never dies. If you not more concerned for it than the flesh, then I don't know what to really tell you.
Can you see this video that's playing in the background? Because I want to talk about
I
it a
do.
second. Yeah. So like it's an illustration of how conception happens.
Yeah,
And
I've been watching it for like the last like 6 to 8 cycles of it being
it's
on.
amazing, right? I mean, I when I saw this video too, I was just sitting there letting it play on repeat, and it's because I think about the idea of how amazing the whole thing is, like
The
how freak.
process, yeah, it's a miracle. Like,
It's
well,
a
it's
miracle.
not. It is, but it's not.
Because look, like you have all these different sperm cells. They got different way. They got to find their way. They got to find their way through this tube. And you see in this tube, it's not that many. It's fewer and fewer. They find their way to the egg. Then once they find their way to the egg, now they got to freaking crack that hole open. Only one gets to find. Another thing I think about is the Matrix because it looks like that. What were those things that were chasing the? They called them something. If they were droids, they were. They were. The ship in the real world, people was flying around in the ship in the real world, and then you had these things, and they used the electric magnetic pulse to kill them. Anyways, it's just a random thing, but the way the sperm cell looks is the same shape of those.
Yeah, what you talking about the little things that was kind of floating around like they were like police, like they were,
Yeah,
like looking for something abnormal.
yeah.
And yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
They were shaped kind of like these sperm cells are shaped, and it's just a thing that sticks in my head. I mean, I don't know. The Matrix references always happen, but anyways, this video is like it illustrates how amazing it is.
hmm
You could say it's not a miracle, but you gotta say it's amazing.
Well, I say that because I mean, if you really look at the true definition of a miracle is just pretty much something that would, like impossible, but
Yeah,
it's but
like
it is, but
supernatural. But
yeah,
but
like but it see, but the reason why I say it's a miracle, but it's not a miracle, is because like it's more than possible. Like it's you know what I'm saying? Like it's
but the universe,
it
everything's
happens
possible.
every day.
But that's why I don't believe in when people say supernatural. I don't even like that term. That doesn't make sense to me because the universe is just the universe. All is,
And the
and just
things that
because we
do
don't
happen,
understand it doesn't mean it's fucking supernatural.
true. Yeah, I roll with you on that. Um, but I mean, even like sometimes it's just, some things that they describe as supernatural really is just natural.
Yeah,
Like this was like it was just something that was meant to be, and just because it's not what we would consider normal occurrence
but
doesn't
but
make it
but
any
looking
less.
at this, I get you. Looking at this process, though, look how many instances that something could go wrong, something could not work. Like, they have to find their way through this little thing. That thing could not be opened or closed or something. They got to find their way up through this. It could be
Well, some of them got
obstructions.
look half got lost. One, half went one way,
Yeah,
the other half went another direction,
there has to be
and
an
then
egg there, a viable egg.
yeah,
All of this stuff. Then it's got to once it's then it moves again. It's gonna show it. So
look, it
this it
splits. It
goes down
splits.
to and now it's going through the tube and it has to go down and attach to the uterus. This is where it attaches, and then so the umbilical cord and shit. So, but how many things could go wrong, bruh? Like, and then once they're in there, and the umbilical cord get
Well, you have to think
wrapped
how many
around.
times it does go wrong, because I mean, every time
Exactly.
you have sex, it doesn't take on that full process. 'Cause, I mean, for one, like she's got to be ready. Like her body, she might be very well fertile, but I mean, you catch her at the wrong time of the month, it's not gonna just happen.
Let me read the comments. Elliot says the point is government and man wants to become God. He says minions may be in the Matrix doing what we do. 3 to 4 nights a week. King Chaka ENT.